Previously on the channel, I've covered the independent game maker known as ZVitors. I looked at some of his games, and it's been a while since I made that video, and with ZVitors being the competent and dedicated game designer he is, he has improved and updated most of his games while working on some new ones. I had the idea to revisit some of his games, and I didn't even need to ask before you guys told me it was a good idea to. We will, however, only be looking at one of his games today, because this is the one that's had the most work done to it, and that game is Justice League Legacy. Formerly Justice League United, a heap of new content has been added to the game since I last reviewed it, and I'm going to give you a look at what the game has now. But obviously, if you are a fan of beat 'em up games and or DC, then I highly recommend this game for you and for you to show some love to ZVitors. Starting off with the modes, the campaign has had an update, so now what was once 2 becomes 4. The campaign now covers 2 extra stories from the DC universe. 0 Hour, where Hal Jordan betrays the Green Lantern Corps to rebuild the world, and Crisis on Infinite Earths, a crossover story featuring the Mutant Ninja Turtles and the cast of Wildcats. You can play through the individual episodes alone with a co-op partner, or you can play Zarga's mode, where you and an AI-controlled partner fight through the levels. Playing the individual episodes and Zarga's is like it was in the old versions, with a few changes in the level designs. There are, however, 3 new modes that allow you to experience the game in differing ways. New Game Plus allows you to use any character on any level so you and your friends can make the perfect dream team. Watchtower mode is the same thing, only you get to choose where you start the game and some levels will play differently. But my favourite of these features is the Streets of Rage crossover, where you and up to 4 friends can play through the Streets of Rage game as a DC character. And before you ask, yes, the extra 1-up is here. Ever wondered what it would be like if Maul invaded Sega? Or what if the Flash lived in the same city as Ninja Turtles? Well, now you and your fanfiction can have a field day. Speaking of characters, the roster has increased in size too, and increases even more if you back ZVitors on Patreon. The full roster includes 2 versions of Superman, one with and one without powers and a sweet mullet, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Batman, Martian Manhunter, Cyborg, Green Lantern, Parallax, Kilowog, Flash, Vixen, Zatanna, Artemis, Shazam, Red Tornado, Plastic Man, Atom, Black Lightning, Hawk Girl, Hawkman, Wildcat, Jay Garrick, Black Canary, Green Arrow, Robin, Nightwing, Starfire, Raven, Beast Boy, Jesse Quick, Huntress, Superboy, Supergirl, Steel, Eradicator, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, Maul, Warblade, Spartan, Spawn, Lobo, Patreon exclusive Red Hood, Black Manta, Cyborg, Superman, Star Sapphire, Harley Quinn, Joker, Lex Luthor, and Darkseid. Ugh. Each of the characters has their own movesets and animations, with a variety of palette swaps, including some new ones. With ZVitors being the way he is though, there are some subtle, lore-friendly nods, Easter eggs, and secrets you can find within these new features, the palette swaps included. Here's an example. Playing as regular Batman allows him to throw batarangs, but when you play as the Thomas Wayne skin, the batarangs are replaced with a pistol. These hidden features and details is something I've always enjoyed, and ZVitors hides them in every game he makes. There's a fair few secrets to find, but you want to see them? Then I suggest you give the game a go yourself. Gameplay itself has also had some improvements. One of my criticisms was the block mechanic. Blocking, then attempting to move made you dodge, but you couldn't keep blocking after a dodge, and while that is still an issue, the dodge itself has become easier to pull off, as you can now perform it while walking, not just when running or blocking, making defensive strategies so much easier to apply to your playstyle. Enemies have also become less aggressive. In older versions, they would attack so often that you didn't have any breathing room. Now you actually can break their faces without being interrupted all the time. That's not to say the enemies aren't a threat anymore. The level of challenge is still there, and being careless can get you swarmed and cost you. Little and welcome changes have been made too. The super jump controls have been changed to up and jump, making it easier to do in the 3D-like levels. Bosses appear when they were number 4, some level elements have changed, mini-bosses make the occasional appearance, and some enemies drop pickups now. As much as I hate to say it, despite the commendable effort he puts in, there are still some issues with the game. Some, if not most of them, are small insignificant things, like I can't grab this robot when it's on the left side of the screen. But the ones that really wind me up are found during the boss fights. Some of them are still difficult for the wrong reasons, and it's always been one of 3 reasons. The first is over-aggressiveness. The majority of the bosses attack way too fast. Some of the bosses attack way too fast, way too often, and don't have a tell to their attacks. Just look how fast Catwoman is trying to hit me. That's ridiculous. And she won't move away until she does hit me, or if I get lucky, I can hit her on the right frame. Bosses are meant to stand out from regular enemies, meaning you need to develop new techniques to fight them. However, these bosses feel more like a regular enemy which has just had its aggression turned up. I think with a bit of work, ZVitor could make these boss fights stand out a bit more, by thinking of ways to make the bosses work as compared to the regular enemies. Examples are the Ocelot fight in Metal Gear Solid 3, where you need to tempt Ocelot to shoot at you while avoiding his shots. Then when he leaves himself open while reloading, you have an opportunity to shoot him. In Dark Souls, bosses will constantly come at you, but they have a clear tell to their attacks, and you have to watch which attack is coming and decide which one gives you a chance to attack back and which one is best to avoid. And in Lost Planet 2, there's a boss where you need to shoot it down with a super weapon while protecting the train that's carrying it. Now I know ZVitor is listening because he's always listening to feedback. I would suggest maybe some of these bosses need a rethink so that there can be some variety to the battles, not just a constantly on your arse enemy. But at the same time, I do understand that there are limits to what you can do in a beat 'em up game, but with bosses like Catwoman and Manchester Black who attack quickly and give you no time to react, especially Manchester Black who attacks at range, they make the fights frustrating and feel like a chore. The only way to beat them is to rely on cheap tactics, and that takes away from a fight. The second reason is sometimes you need to rely on tanking damage. This problem mainly comes up in the car levels. Sometimes you have no choice but to tank damage because the vehicles around you give you no room to move out the way of a shot, or the corpse of an enemy will still damage you after you kill it. This isn't so much of a problem if you've got a smaller car or you're playing as a flying character, but it can still affect you. When you need to fight a boss on vehicles, it's the same issue of rapid attacks, so you're pretty much exchanging blows until one of you dies, so it's more dependent on luck more than anything. The third is a spamming of additional enemies, or ads for short. Sometimes you'll be overwhelmed with the amount of ads on screen, so much that they get in the way or they're just there to make the fight harder, which doesn't necessarily make it better. Ads can work in a boss fight, but the point of them is either to act as a minor threat that accompanies the major threat, give a break in the action, or act as a risk versus reward scenario, where the reward is they'll drop pickups so that you can stay in the fight, but the risk is they could kill you, or at the very least hurt you, so you're in a worse position when you get back to the boss. Here, the ads act like an irritating distraction that constantly hound you. Just look how quickly they spawn in against the Rat King. Though I will mention as a side note, one thing I do like about the Rat King fight is that it's a freeway boss fight, because the enemies are fighting each other as well as you. It's a cool concept and I like it. Now, for the sake of fairness, I should stress that this isn't the case for all bosses. The Bane fight is a good example of one of the better bosses in the game. He telegraphs his attacks, and the additional enemies, while there to get in the way, act as a minor threat and don't cause constant issues. Now, despite what I personally like or dislike about the game, ZVitor is always willing to accept and listen to feedback from anyone who plays his games, and will do what he can to improve the game. Better than some people out there. Overall, despite its flaws, Justice League Legacy is a vast improvement over Justice League United. Its controls have been improved, the graphics are still fantastic, the new characters look great, as well as the new characters offering more variety for you to play with, and the game itself is well crafted, minus a few problems, and you know what mine are. And of course, there's now the 4-player mode if you want to bring more friends into it. If you want to try this game for yourself, want to support ZVitor in the future, or just stay up to date on everything he does, then you know where to find the links by now. If you're interested in seeing the game being played, then I will be playing this on my Twitch soon, so please consider visiting if you're interested. And that was Justice League Legacy. Thanks for watching everyone, and remember you're always welcome at the Spectrum.